Welcome to the lABLEd podcast, a show about disability, illness and difference. I'm Lucy.
And I'm Alice.
And that's Lola.
Kaleidoscope identity, and this is who I'm meant to be. I'm just labelled me. I'm just labelled me.
The lABLEd podcast is a show about disability, illness and difference. We cover very personal and sometimes controversial topics. As such, listeners may hear language, including profanity or terminology that they find offensive. Please be aware of this as you listen to this week's episode.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the lABLEd podcast. We have Louise Steele with us today, who's going to be telling us about her life with autism. Hello, Louise.
Oh, hello, you all right?
Yes, thank you. Thanks so much for joining us on this episode today.
Yeah, that's all right. I mean, it's the first time I've spoken about my Asperger's, so yeah, it was exciting and nerve-wracking, I suppose.
Oh,
yeah.
We'll be gentle with you, don't worry. Could you tell us a little bit about Asperger's and how it affects you personally, please, Louise?
How it affects me? I suppose the main thing is communication, which is, well, I've come on a podcast and yeah, it's my communication skills really, and not making much sense sometimes. Yeah, I think growing up it was more like struggling to make friends and things like that. I noticed that at school people would make friends quite easily, and I just wondered why I didn't seem to get it, I suppose. I mean, I remember being at secondary school and thinking, you know, everyone's making friends, and how do they do that, you know? It didn't seem to come naturally to me. But luckily I had my twin sister, who you'll be speaking to, and yeah, she's my saving grace really. So I've had to quite stumble my way through life, I suppose. Yeah, just trying to survive it all, I suppose, and yeah, do what everyone else seems to take for granted.
I think it's a very common theme that we're finding already, Alice, in these episodes, that if you have a disability, your teenage years are even more difficult than, and I mean, being a teenager anyway is extremely difficult and hard to navigate, but you put an extra barrier on top of that, and it makes it even tougher. Did you find that was the case, Louise? And how did you what coping strategies? You mentioned your sister. So did your sister sort of go to the same school as you? Did you talk about things with your sister?
Oh, no, not really. I mean, it was like this unspoken kind of thing, really. It was like, I think there was a bit of shame in it, to be honest, because it's like, oh, well, we're here at secondary school, this, and none of us knew how to make friends, and everyone else seemed to be making friends. It's like, well, we don't talk about it, but it's like quite shameful, so we didn't speak about it. We just
so you didn't speak?
No, I didn't speak about it, and I just found myself hiding in the toilet quite a lot at secondary school, you know, because it got a bit overwhelming, like in the canteen. I always remember it getting overwhelming in the canteen, and I just wanted to get away from all the noise and all the people, so I'd just escape into the toilet. And yeah, I remember feeling a bit embarrassed and ashamed of it, so I just kept it to myself really. And yeah, the worst thing about, you know, I never wanted my mum to find out that we didn't have any friends at school and things like that, because I thought, she'll be really like disappointed and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just embarrassing, because the worst thing at secondary school is to be a loner, you know. They call you a loner, like that's the worst thing, to not be popular.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about it is, growing up with Gemma, I always thought that I didn't know what this Asperger's was. So I just thought it was something to do with us being twins. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we hadn't been properly socialised and things like that, because we'd always had each other, so we grew up not knowing how to communicate. So yeah, I thought that's what it was. So I kind of like, horrible to say, but I resented her in a way, and I think she thought, it's Louise's fault, or it's, you know, that we can't seem to make friends, because so it's a bit strange really.
What sort of led to, because I know that you were diagnosed sort of quite late, not late in life because that makes you sound old,
Wow.
but you were only diagnosed recently, sort of comparatively recently. So you didn't know about your Asperger's when you were a teenager and when you were at uni and stuff. So what sort of prompted getting your diagnosis?
Well, it was that job, at Jotters, the academic support worker. You got me onto it, didn't you? Getting a job, just taking notes for disabled students at uni. And they gave us the training and started talking about this thing called Asperger's syndrome. And I just froze, and I just thought, oh my God, that's me, that's what it is. That's me.
Really?
Yeah, and I thought, so then I started getting books out and things like that, and I just remember being on the bus and just crying because it all made sense. And
Was that like a good cry or a bad cry? Was it almost like relief that you knew that there was a name for it rather than, oh my God, this,
Well, yeah, I think it was, relief, but it was also, grieving that I wish I'd have known sooner kind of thing.
Yeah, I suppose.
But no one knew what it was, and it was a good cry, and I thought, oh, no, that means there's other people like me then, and I'm not mad or anything. I've just got this, these challenges, basically. Yeah.
Do you find having that support network that's a bit wider than your sister comforting?
Oh yes, it brings a lot of security and comfort really, because I think it's something that was very complicated that only you can really understand if you have it yourself.
Yeah, I think from, I didn't know anybody with my eyesight condition, or anybody that I did know with my eyesight condition was 25, 30 years older than me for a really long time. And then thanks to a kind of couple of random happenstance circumstances and going online and stuff like that, I found a couple of people who are, late 20s, early 30s with the same eye condition as me, and having that person that I can turn to and say, this is something that I experience, and isn't it crap? Who can, he's also going through it and absolutely understands exactly that. It's really comforting it, because I think that the biggest issue, like Lucy was saying about us all having trouble in our teenage years, is it's that isolation. It's feeling like an outcast and feeling different. But actually, when you've got people who have not just, the disabled community at large, but I do think having generally somebody who's sort of specifically experiences the same difficulties as you. Obviously, every person is affected slightly differently by their impairment, but someone who can actually relate, that does make a huge difference, I think, to your confidence about just being able to go, oh, it's okay to have this, it's not just me.
I mean, when I started at work in my current job, my line manager also has cerebral palsy, and even though the way it affects us is ever so slightly different, she has taught me so much about cerebral palsy. And like when I'll mention things in conversation, she's like, oh no, that's not just you, that's the cerebral palsy thing, like you're not special. That's just a cerebral palsy issue. I wouldn't worry, and this is what I do to help with that sort of thing. So it is quite, I mean, I went to a special school, so I was surrounded by people with all sorts of disabilities, including cerebral palsy, but we never really, I can't really say that we sort of sat down and said, oh, this has happened to me today, has this happened to you? We never really did that. We were just teenagers and we just sort of did teenagery sorts of things. We never really sat down and had a frank conversation about, well, this is hurting today, what do you do about this sort of pain? It was a kind of, we're at school, let's just do teenagery things. And it's only now really when I'm a bit older that I'm sort of surrounding myself with these people that have got this, similar conditions or the same condition, but with just similar ways it affects them, that I'm going, oh yeah, that is a cerebral palsy thing. I never knew that. It's quite amazing, isn't it, that when you get older, with age comes with like this new information, and you can kind of sort of handle it better. You're like, okay, all right, now I know Now, like the startle reflex, so loud noises.
Yeah.
Every time we go to record a podcast, it makes a noise to let you know that you're in, and every time it makes me jump. Because I don't know it's coming, but it still makes me jump, and it's a cerebral palsy thing. That startle reflex never leaves you, and I didn't realise that until years after I'd been going to like bonfire parties or loud noises had been happening, and I'd think, oh, why am I jumping? It's making me look like such an idiot. Somebody saying hello to me in a room that's been quiet for 15 minutes will set me off jumping. And I'm like, why? And everybody would laugh at me. And I would laugh at me because I think that's ridiculous. And then when I realised it was a startle reflex, it was almost like, oh, that's a cerebral palsy thing. It's not nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
So have you found, Louise, that there are things that when you didn't realise it was autism and Asperger's that you were ashamed of, and then when you got the diagnosis you thought, oh, well, that's, I'm going to own it now, rather than I don't know why I do the things I do? And
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I can remember growing up, and at school I used to be really into my artwork and everything like that, and I didn't tend to socialise. I'd rather just get on with my artwork and everything like that, and just hide away in the art rooms and just work on that at lunchtimes, whereas everyone else would like socialising. And even at home, me and Gemma would just be doing our artwork in the dining room. And I remember that my mum said that we would take teenagers, and she said that she called it sad, that because we weren't out, drinking like on the street corners like all the other youths and everything, and going out to the Emporium, and she used to compare me to her friends' daughters and things like that, and it made me feel quite ashamed. But now I'm just like, that's what I like to do. That's my idea of a good time. Some people have their idea of a good time, so partying, socialising or whatever. That's my vacation, is just getting stuck into some artwork or writing. So just accepting my quirks, really.
Yeah.
And do you think that, because one of the difficulties, as you said, with Asperger's and with autism is that kind of ability to communicate? Do you think you're drawn to stuff like artwork and writing, and I know you make music? Do you think that's partly because you feel more able to express yourself through that? And do you think that that's an Asperger's thing, or do you think that's just a personality thing?
Well, I don't know, really. It's quite the lines are quite blurred, really, I suppose. But I think because I've always struggled to articulate myself, but with writing I could say it exactly how I wanted, I found, and come across quite articulate, and because you can edit it and everything like that and control it and everything, and I think I was always drawn to that. That's why I did creative writing at university, because I've always found general chat quite difficult and things like that. And the art is just a way to express myself, really. I think, it's just a different language, I suppose.
It is a different, and it's, from seeing your artwork and seeing your music videos and stuff, they are very, it's almost sort of theatrical, and it is really expressive in that visual sort of sense, all your different outfits and things like that, and your artwork is so sort of striking. I think it's really interesting that you find that you find yourself more able to kind of express yourself through that, and I think that really comes out in the work that you produce.
Oh, thank you. I think because I'm so quiet and feel like, I don't know, overlooked, maybe that's not the right word. I mean, in general life, and able to make friends and stuff, I think, that's a good outlet for me, and a good, to show people what I can do, that I'm not, I don't want to say a failure, but I can do this, but look at me, I can do this, and I can make you listen to me through this kind of way.
Yeah.
And people are quite surprised, because they're like, oh no, Louise, she's the shy one, that can't, that doesn't speak.
But Louise, don't you think as well, by doing that you're defying your label in your own way? So people have pigeonholed you and labelled you as this quiet person who, maybe is quite shy, and actually you are actively saying, I'm not shy, I just find things a little bit more tricky. Maybe, you know, if you give me time to get to know me and know, you know, learn about me, you'll understand that I am not this shy person who doesn't like to talk to anybody. You just got to you got to have a bit of patience, haven't you? I think that's what the world is missing. That particularly with people with disabilities, they're too quick to make disabilities or health conditions, too quick to make decisions on people, and rather than spend the time and learning about somebody, they make the snap decisions, and the snap decisions unfortunately stick to the detriment of our abilities. So somebody might look at me in my wheelchair and think, oh, she can't walk, oh, it must take her ages to do things, when actually it that isn't the case at all. I can just work just as well and just as fast as the able-bodied person sat next to me. It's just you need to have time to get to know me, and I think it's amazing that you have that outlet to sort of dismantle that label that society puts around your neck. And you know, is it something that you feel comfortable doing, or do you get nervous as you're doing these music video shoots and things like that? Are you very conscious of the fact that they are so completely different to what other people may perceive you to be?
No, I think I get a kick out of it, to be honest. Yeah, I can remember, you know, going out with work colleagues and going up on the karaoke, and no one could know I could sing and everything, and people would be like, and I liked, you know, no one knowing, and then I'd just get on the mic and sing something a bit feisty, and they'd be like, oh my god, I can't believe that was you, and I got a bit of a kick out of it, to be honest. But then then I go back into
you should hear the lungs on her as well, Lucy. Honestly, she's not a sort of a gentle singer. She's got a strong set of pipes on her. Yeah, definitely.
You see, I am terrible at singing. If I start singing, it'll rain. And please stop. But I do wish I could sing. So no, I just think it's really interesting that, you know, and I think all power to you really for using that outlet to sort of say, actually, what you see isn't necessarily what you get. It's the whole judging a book by its cover thing, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's my new song. I mean, the main line for that is, I'm not going to be your little sideshow no more. You know, that's like me saying, you know, I'm not this little mousy girl that's going to be sidelined. I want you to listen to what I've got to say. I want to be a lion, kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what the lyrics are all about, really.
I love a lion. I am a Leo, so a lion.
Yeah,
a lion is my spirit animal.
Yeah, it's never a bit of obsession with star signs, as Alice probably tell you. Yeah, I've had a few obsessions over the years. So yeah.
So do you find that your Asperger's and your autism is almost a bit like a superpower, so that not many people know about? So do you use maybe your attention to detail or whatever it is as a positive rather than a negative to help you achieve in life? Or is it something that you have to work with and go, okay, I'm going to find this difficult, but there are ways that we can get around it?
Yeah, I think it is a bit of a superpower. I mean, I don't know what people think about that. They probably think it's big-headed, or I don't know, really. I mean, my sister's got a run-in and I've got my things that I do, and it kind of saved me at secondary school a bit, because even though, you know, I didn't have this voice and no one really, I didn't have any friends or anything like that, people still had respect for me because they'd go, oh, the Steels can do artwork, or they're brilliant at drawing, or, you know, running, or, you know, because I used to the long jump as well. So people, yeah, had respect for that. So it was like, yeah, that's, you know, like a saving grace, really. Like, it gives me some self-esteem, I suppose, where as if I didn't have these things that I did, I'd probably have self-esteem at rock bottom, to be honest, I mean, with all of the struggles. So yeah, I think it's a blessing, really.
I think it's a very common theme again that disabled people, you either go one or two ways with it. You either succumb to it and sort of feel sorry for yourself and you know, think about all the things you can't do, or you go the other way and go, actually, I've got these difficulties, but I'm gonna make it work to my advantage. Do you know what I mean? So I always think that my wheelchair is the one thing that people remember, be it a good or a bad way to remember, but it was always so if I'm in a meeting with somebody, I always leave, and then a few weeks later they go, oh yeah, do you who was in that meeting? Oh, it was so and so, and Lucy, you know, the one in the wheelchair. So they remember me. I'm not like one of these people you forget easily.
I do think that I just want to sort of say that I think it is a bit more complex than that. I think saying that it's you kind of succumbing to it or embracing it. I think, you know, to say that you go one or the other, I don't think that. I think what's more accurate is to say that everybody kind of goes through phases, because I definitely have days where just the fact that I've dropped something and I've been down on my knees looking for it for 4, 5, 6 minutes and I still can't find it, and I just go, I give up. And you know, those are the days where I just want to hide in bed. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to see anybody, because it's really hard sometimes. And it can be something really tiny that just overwhelms you and makes you go, actually, you know what? Being disabled's really hard, and I really hate it sometimes.
Don't get me wrong, Alice.
And I think
there are days where even the strongest person would get fed up of this situation that we find ourselves in, because I know I do.
Yeah, I think it's about, you know, whether you've been able to, and I don't like phrases like accept or come to terms with, but
no,
it is that sort of thing, whether you've been able to go, okay, I might have a disability or an illness that means X, Y, and Z are hard, but I am also this person, or I can also do these things. And I think, you know, it can be quite a long journey for people to get to that place. Yeah, the
way I saw it, I don't really have a choice. You just got to get on with it, haven't you? I mean,
exactly.
This is who I am, and I don't have a choice. And what can I do? Just carry on.
And I tell you what, for me, if somebody says, you know, if somebody writes me off or says you can't do that, I'm like, watch me, because I'm going to do it twice as good as anybody else, you know. So watch. Don't say you can't do that, because I'll just do it anyway. It's like fuel. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah. I feel that with my singing as well. I don't know whether, not a chip on my shoulder, but it's like it gives me that fire, you know what I mean, to show.
Yeah,
show
people. Exactly.
Yeah, and the vocals come out, you know, quite loud.
I think it's amazing. I really do. I think it's amazing.
Thank you.
How did your family and your friends take it when you revealed that you'd got this diagnosis, you know, later on in your life? Because you said that for you sort of thought, oh, it suddenly made sense. Were there people around you who said, oh my God, that explains it? Or were there people around you who were really surprised?
Yeah, I think there's people that wouldn't believe it. I mean, because on the outside, I can, you know, if I try really hard, I can come across as okay, you know, but it takes a lot of work and a lot of masking to come across in the right way. So I think, especially from, you know, like my mum, she'd be like, no, Louise is fine. She's, you know, gets on with it fine. And people, because they don't understand the ins and outs of Asperger's, I think, yeah, they don't. It's disbelief really, and because you can't see it as well. That's the thing.
It's invisible. It's the invisible disability, isn't it?
Yeah, people don't appreciate the efforts that you have to go to.
Yeah. So, Louise, you were talking there about you know, sort of making decisions when you're going shopping and things, and having the hidden disability, and how harder that can make life for you. What do you think? I don't know if you've ever heard of the sunflower lanyard system that supermarkets have. Have you ever used that? What are your thoughts on the sunflower lanyard system?
Well, yeah, I have got one of those, but I tend not to use it because I think, I don't know, people would judge me for wearing it for some reason, like,
right,
because they'd look at me and think, oh, she's just got that from somewhere and she's just pretending that she's got a problem, or, got one of these.
So even if it made it easier for you, you wouldn't wear it? Because it's like drawing attention to yourself?
Yeah, I think it would invite some looks. I think I'd just judge you, draw attention to myself and people judging me. And I don't know. I do like the idea of them. I think they're good for people, but it's that thing, isn't it, of invisible disabilities versus visible. And I think people can't get their head around invisible disabilities sometimes. And
the whole issue of invisible disabilities is very difficult for people to get their head around. I know that people now, when they're using sort of disabled toilets and there may be an ambulatory, whatever the word is, I think it's ambulatory, sort of wheelchair user, so they get up out of their wheelchair and walk into a disabled toilet, and they're very nervous about using sort of toilets and facilities that are actually meant for disabled people. But I think from a person in a wheelchair's point of view, there are, my disability is very visible, so in some respects I'm very lucky, but there are times that I do sometimes wish that I could just like flick a switch, turn it off, do you know what I mean, and make it invisible and make it go away for like 15 minutes or something.
I suppose it's a double-edged sword really in that respect.
But I can completely understand the other side of the coin, and the fact that people with invisible disabilities may want to flick the switch the other way and go, actually, can you see it now? I need this. I can completely understand it, and I think it's that just lies with the whole, again, society needs to be patient and a little bit kinder, and just not to go, oh yeah, well, they're using a disabled toilet when they don't need to, or they're struggling. Why are they struggling? That's a bit weird. And just to be a bit kinder, really, and understand that it's not just black and white, is it? Life isn't black and white. It's just so interesting that people will talk about invisible disability. I always class myself as very, very lucky that nobody really questions it, because I'm in a wheelchair. So it's like, oh well, of course you need the driving space, the parking space, or of course you need that toilet. I just think it's basic kindness that people are lacking, but I think that's been a thing, for a long time in this day and age.
I mean, when I was first diagnosed, I thought, what should I feel like I need to get a tattoo or something, like the puzzle piece tattoo or something. So, as a mark to others. But then I thought, that's a bit strange as well, like branding myself. So it was a bit confused, really. So I just ended up getting like a puzzle piece necklace that I just wear with pride.
Did you?
Yeah. But I know that symbol's quite controversial as well.
Is it?
Yeah.
Why is it quite controversial?
I think it's because some people say it's like a missing piece of the puzzle.
Right.
So there's a part missing, but I see it as a piece found. So it's depends which way you look at it, really.
Yeah, which angle you're coming at it from.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Especially around things like imagery of disabled people. So the main image of a disabled person is a wheelchair on a blue background. But then not every disability is a wheelchair. That's the thing. And I don't know how society will get over the issue of, well, a disability must mean a wheelchair or some sort of mobility aid or mobility animal, or what to indicate. I just generally think people need to be a little bit more kind, a little bit more patient, and a little bit more understanding. Because if everybody had that, we wouldn't have sections of society that feel they don't fit in. Because if everybody was more understanding,
I think if everybody was just a bit more open-minded, and instead of looking at a person and assuming that they don't have any needs, look at a person and say, well, what do you have any needs? What are your needs? And taking it from there, instead of going, well, we have to make changes because this person is different. You know, that's kind of what it boils down to for me. Is it's all, you know, Louise has got access issues just in the same way that you and I have got access issues, but her access issues are not necessarily about physically being able to get into a building or physically being able to, you know, use a piece of equipment. For her, it's about being able to communicate with people and express her needs.
Yeah, the lighting and things like that, noise and all kinds of things like that bother me and things like that. Remember when we were in the cafe and I was like, we were talking about your eyesight, and I was like, I couldn't get my head around what it's like to be you. I suppose, and I just wish sometimes that I could just see it for a second through your eyes, and and you could see it through mine. You know, that would be
yeah.
Because I mean, a lot of misunderstanding and miseducation about disability issues is because people can't get their head around what might be wrong with somebody. And I always think that if you had like 5 seconds of what it was like to be somebody else, you would understand that person so much better.
Yeah, I used to do disability awareness training, and one of the things that I would do is I would bring in wheelchairs, and I'd bring in those glasses that block out part of your vision, and headsets and things like that. And I'd say, okay, everybody, we're going to spend a couple of minutes and you're going to try and do a task with these on. And I just get them to do some really basic, like fill out a form or something. And then I go, all right, we're going to take a break. It's, 15-minute fag break, but you've got to keep your disability in place. Yes. And the number of people who'd gone, oh, well, I'm going to pick a wheelchair because I want to see what it's like to sit in a wheelchair, and then go, but I'm on the 3rd floor and there's no lift and I want to go outside and have a cigarette. And you sort of go, tough. You're in a wheelchair.
Can't get out of it.
Yeah. And, and it is kind of having to say to people, we'll stop for a second and look at what you're doing and think about how a person who experiences the world differently might experience that. And I mean, we're all guilty of struggling to see past our own experiences. It's really hard sometimes to always be thinking, especially when there's so many different diversities to needs and differences. I think people can be forgiven for fucking up occasionally, but I think if we were as a society kind of trained a little bit to just be a bit more aware of other people, it would everything would run much more smoothly for people with disabilities and differences.
I often think it's a bit, for me, it feels sometimes like I'm talking to people with a cardboard box on my head and they can't really hear me. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm trying to explain, and it's that sort of look on their face of like, I don't get it, I don't get it, I don't get it. And you think, if you just listen, if you take a step back and listen and appreciate our lived experiences as disabled people or people with chronic illnesses, you would understand a lot. And there is a big difference as to what you think listening is and actually really listening. Do you know what I mean? I always think.
I think it must be particularly difficult for somebody, Lucy and I are fortunate that we don't have any kind of neurodiversities. So for us, standing up, to excuse the phrase, and going, I need you to do this, I can't do this, is a lot easier for us than for somebody with something like Asperger's or autism, for whom that communication and that, being able to explain yourself as well as being able to understand the communications of others is already, more difficult.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, people just think that you're coming across as rude or selfish. It's a lot of misunderstanding. I mean, I was at work the other day and I'm a reporter, and I was interviewing this man on the phone for an hour and a half, and after quite an amount of time of talking, my brain starts to get tired and things like that, and I start to zone out. But I didn't feel like I could say to him, excuse me, I'm getting tired. I'm not, from his point of view, I was just being rude and not, being engaged anymore. So it was just,
Well, if you need to take a break today, Louise, do just shout, because we can absolutely do, another hour, another day, if that's what you need.
Yeah, no, it's fine at the minute. It's just constant. If you're taking too much information at a time, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So long as we're not bombarding you too much, that's all right.
Yeah.
We're being very gentle with the question. We're trying to be.
I was going to say. Yeah, you said that you mentioned that, you know, about being people thinking you're rude and people calling you selfish. That's something you mentioned in your form, is that's something that's kind of happened to you before, as people have said that you're selfish because of the difficulties that you have with kind of communication and expressing yourself. And tell us a little bit about sort of what that's like. And I mean, I imagine that must be quite hurtful to hear.
Well, as you can imagine, it was really hurtful, to be honest, because I didn't understand at the time. I just thought I was a bad person, basically, because I couldn't handle people coming round to the house. I'd just go out of the way and hide away. So that's why I'd get called ignorant. You know, if I had had a big day at school or something, I just wanted to hide away in my bedroom and just relax. So, and then there's like the selfish aspect, which comes across as selfish, but it's Asperger's because you can't really understand the needs of other people in that respect. So yeah, so it's really hurtful and confusing growing up, I suppose, and yeah, quite demoralising to be misunderstood like that because I don't think I'm a bad person. So yeah.
So within the family environment, once you got diagnosed with Asperger's, was that easier for people to understand of, oh, that's just Louise, oh, that's just how Gemma is, that kind of thing? Or is it still something that your family struggle with?
Yeah, it's some things they grasped. I mean, they did do a lot of reading about Asperger's, but it is quite a complicated subject. And I think the hardest thing that people don't get their head around is that, you know, once you've met one person with Asperger's, you've met one person with Asperger's. That's the saying. And I think people can't get their head around that because even with me and Gemma, that's true. Some things affect her and some things don't affect me. She's better at some things. So I would say she's better at talking even because she's done a lot of interviews and things like that, and she just goes on and on. Whereas I'm more thoughtful and overthinker, I think. So
yeah, so I know, you know, it's quite an interesting situation that you're in, being an identical twin, but being diagnosed before your sister. How did you sort of bring that up with her? Was it a hard conversation to have?
Well, we were actually diagnosed at the same time. It was we were the first twins in Leicestershire to be diagnosed like that because we had the diagnosis done together. But yeah, I obviously found out, I think it was about 3 years before Gemma, but I never mentioned it to her because she was doing really well with the running and everything, and I thought, you know, she might be insulted by this. She might be offended, you know, if I tell her, I think that we've got this Asperger's syndrome. So it was like the elephant in the room, really. We didn't mention it for a long time, but then she started struggling and things like that, and she was having a bad time with her mental health, and I thought it was the running was struggling as well, and I thought it was a good time to think maybe I should introduce her to the idea. So I just opened the laptop and said, what do you think about this? And she started crying and everything, and yeah, I think she was relieved, but I think there was also an element of, well, why didn't you tell me sooner, kind of thing. So, yeah.
So just because she didn't look like she was struggling didn't necessarily mean that she wasn't struggling.
She struggles with day-to-day things like, you know, household chores and bills and things like that, and organising herself. But I think as long as her running's on track, she's okay. But her running was struggling, so she was kind of falling apart at the time. So that's what.
So whereas you use your music as a bit of a release, your sister uses running as her release.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. She gets her self-esteem from that, and yeah, so it's like not running away from herself, but in a way. But yeah, and I get all my angst and everything out through my singing. So, and people find that quite strange that their interests are quite different,
Yeah,
wildly
yeah,
different.
definitely.
Because
Definitely.
I just run a bath. That's all I do.
Me too. Me
It's
too.
Yeah.
I suspect that's kind of the experience of a lot of twins, though, isn't it? That there is just an element of having to go. No, just because we look the same doesn't mean we're the same person.
Mm.
Yeah, but we do share most genetics, so I don't know. People seem to go, oh, why don't you try running? I bet you could do it. If she can do it, you can do it. But yeah.
I mean,
I
I'm
think
sure you could run physically. It's just that it doesn't appeal to you in the way that it appeals
No,
to Gemma.
You wouldn't
no,
have the same enjoyment as your sister gets from running.
no, I can't think of anything worse, to be honest. Yeah.
And how's Gemma singing? Is it like a bag of cats?
She's an enthusiastic singer. Yeah, she likes karaoke. But
I don't even like
That's a
karaoke.
nice way of putting
I
it.
think
Yeah.
she's got more confidence than me. She'll get up and give it a go, whereas I'm a bit more shy.
Do you take a bit of like persuading, but once you're up there, that's it. Can't get you down again.
In a way, I take it more seriously. But I think the art does cross over. We're both artistic. Actually, people do. So that's the one comment that someone said. I remember my mum saying, "Oh, they're both they've always been artistic," and this man said, "We're more like autistic." And I didn't know what he meant at the time. So he'd realised that because I used he used to call me a hermit because I used to hide away in my room just writing all the time. Obviously picked up on that, and yeah, and I thought, oh, that's quite
Perhaps not the most sensitive delivery, but
no,
I
not
get the
really.
point.
Yeah. About as subtle as a brick, that really, isn't it? To be fair.
Yeah, I mean, I was quite insulted because to me, autism was, I don't know what, I didn't know much about it, but now what I know about it, I'm quite proud of.
So would you, I mean, I'm getting the vibe that your autism is something that you are proud of. It's not something that you are ashamed of anymore. Is that the case?
Yeah, there is an element of pride because, what I've achieved, and how I've struggled, and got by really, and I never thought I'd have a house, and I never thought, I'd go to university and get my degree because I dropped out once before and almost dropped out again. So yeah, that was an achievement. And yes, I'm quite proud really, and I don't think it's a negative thing. I think it's quite misunderstood really. So yeah, I just think people should learn a bit more about it and think of it as just a different way of being, to be honest. Yeah.
Did you feel at any point before you got your diagnosis, when you were telling people, I think this is what it is, I think this is what I've got, did you come into contact with many people that were, no, you haven't, it's all in your head kind of thing? Did you feel like, and did that, if you came across it, did it make you feel like you were going mad at some point? Like maybe did you have that self-doubt of maybe it's just me, maybe I've read that wrong, maybe, or
well, yeah, I'm someone that always doubts myself anyway. But and then you think to yourself, well, maybe everyone feels like this because you can't see what other people are thinking. You're walking around thinking, I don't feel the same as everyone else. But how do you know that? Because you can't. Does that make sense? You can't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, you doubt yourself, and then people are skeptical, and they say, some people were like, well, why do you want to be diagnosed with that? And I'm just like, well, because I think it's the truth,
Yeah.
And I want clarity and everything. And
and sometimes a diagnosis is not always a negative thing, is it? It can open so many more doors for you, and health-wise, you're more understood if you have a diagnosis rather than, I don't know what's wrong with me. How is anybody else meant to know what is wrong with me if I don't even know what's wrong with me? Whereas if you've got I know we talk about labels and getting rid of those labels, but I think in that instance, if you have this sort of, this is what I have label on you, it does make life in that first instance very much, I wouldn't say easier, but it's a bit more, the path is clearer as to what your options are, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think it's what everyone wants, isn't it, to be understood. So it helps with that understanding because it's something concrete people can look up and they can actually.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think telling people that I've got this diagnosis actually has helped my relationships with people. I mean, and even with Alice, I mean, yeah, I think since I told her, you've been more understanding with me, and I feel more open because I feel like, oh, well, Alice understands me a bit better now, and if I make a mistake, it doesn't matter because she knows a bit about Asperger's, and I don't feel like I have to pretend as much and be perfect.
I think that's important, that just because we want people to understand our disabilities and our condition, it doesn't mean to say we want the people that we are in contact with to be experts and know more about it than we do. We just want you to have a basic level of understanding of, oh yeah, okay, I get it. We don't need you to be an expert. We've got plenty of those.
Yeah.
We just a basic level of understanding is better than none.
Yeah, just be aware and allow people to be themselves and to make mistakes, I suppose. Yeah,
exactly.
That's all anyone.
At the end of the day, we're all human. Do you know what I mean? Whether you've got a barrier or a disability or a health condition, we're all human at the end of the day, and nobody is immune from anything.
Well, no. And everyone wants friends and everyone wants relationships. And
exactly.
But it's harder for some people. So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I treasure the people that hold on. The few friends that I have. So.
Yeah, exactly. And as my mum always says, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. And if you can class like five or less people as really good friends, then you're doing all right in life. It's not about having armies of people.
They say that having 5 really good friends is much more important than having 30 people who you think you know.
Yeah. I have a rule on Facebook that if my Facebook friends gets above 100 people, then it's 1 in, 1 out, because nobody really knows more than 100 people that they care about to like hear about their news and stuff. And I think that's good for your mental health, really, because otherwise you're bombarded with news about Sandra from accounts again, who actually you don't really that bothered about, and you're just adding Sandra from accounts because you sit next to her every like lunchtime. And so it's social protocol. So the people I'm friends with on Facebook are people that I really want to hear about and talk to, rather than I'll just have that big social media following just because it's cool.
Well, for me it's like I can't understand how people can have that many real life connections, because I couldn't manage that many. I mean, my little sister, she's really sociable, and I marvel at people that can just make friends with anybody on a bus, and they just start talking to them, and I'm like, how do they do that? They were always like, growing up, they were like magicians to me. Like,
but also I've not got Asperger's or autism, and I think that in itself is exhausting. Being able to make friends with everybody is exhausting.
Yeah, well, that's what my little sister is like, and I think I always envied her because I can remember being 9 years old, and she just made friends with the girl next door, just talking to her over the fence, and I just thought, oh wow, how does she do that? I wish I could do that, because this girl was closer to my age, and Carly was only 5 or something. I just thought, wow. And sometimes I think, would I swap, my artistic side to be more sociable, or what is it like to be like that? I don't know. Yeah, strange one.
I often think that if somebody said I could wave a magic wand and make you able-bodied, would I want it? Because I'd need to know if it was a time-limited thing. So if it was like a day or a week, then I wouldn't take it, because why would I purposely make myself miserable? But that's not to say that it's not that I don't like being disabled, or there aren't good qualities of being different, because there are. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's miserable, because it's not at all. But there are times where I think, oh, just to have it easier, just to make things a bit quicker, or that I didn't have to rely on so many people. That is the one thing that I do sometimes think, I wish things were like earlier, before we started recording, turning the plug socket on my charger for my laptop. Normally I could do it no problem, like flick it on, just no problem. Today it took forever. And I'm like, oh, this is embarrassing. A, this is embarrassing, and B, I know I can do this quicker. But I knew, like, if I was able-bodied and was able to get up, get down on the floor, flick a switch, it'd be like over and done. You know, it's silly little things like jumping in and out of the shower, how quickly I could do things like getting in and out of the shower. And some days you think, I can't be bothered today. It's taking me forever. And that can lead to frustration. But I don't know whether I would want it if that magic wand came with conditions of at the stroke of midnight, that's it, you're back in your wheelchair. Because I think that would just make, for me, I was born with my disability, so I've never known any different. It's like ignorance is bliss until they take your bliss away, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've always sort of thought if somebody came along to me and said, we'll take your blindness away from you, and you'll be able to see forever, I think, I mean, I'd take it, but that's only because I'm in a place where I can say, well, actually, you know what, my experience with sight loss has made me the person I am, and I'm quite happy with the person I am, and I've done quite a lot of work to get there. But if I'd never had blindness, I'd be a very different person.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, if people made my life easier, as in I could just, I had to pick up a prescription earlier, and the woman just like went to hand me the slip side to sign, and I was like, I can't see where she's handing it to me, and with all the perspex at the minute, it's really hard. And then I had to get the thing out so that I could read where I needed to sign, and then I had to find a pen, and it takes me, what would take a fully sighted person about 8 seconds takes me 2 minutes. And if I could go through the rest of my life without having to worry about stupid shit like that, I would absolutely, and not have to get migraines if I've done too much staring at a computer all day. 100% I'd take that. But if you said to me, we'll take it away from the day you were born, so you won't be the person you are now, I don't know whether it would be a different story, because I do, I am proud of who I am, and there is a big part of my disability that's made me the kind of friend that I am, and the kind of partner that I am, and to get involved in the sort of work that I do, and I am proud of all of those things.
Yeah. Did you think it's like toughened you up then and made you more resilient? Because I always thought of you in that way.
I think that particularly because of the nature of my disability, like yours, is not necessarily something you can see straight away. You do have to get used to having to kind of fight a bit to get the support you need. So I think I have, had to learn to kind of be like, no, you have to listen to me. This is what I need. This is because, especially with, my sight loss issue, if I don't get the right support, I'm sometimes, I'm kind of physically, I could be in danger. If I'm in I can remember, it's a pretty horrible story, a Halloween where I was out when I was 14, 15, and I was out with friends, and there was 3 of us, and there were a group of guys who sort of backed us into a corner and were being creepy. They were teenage kids, same as we were, but they were making comments about us, as I can't remember specifically, but us being girls. And my 2 friends sort of went to walk off, but it was Halloween, it was nighttime, I couldn't see, and so I found myself, literally what I can remember is being surrounded by these guys, and a couple of them attempting to pull my skirt down, and I had to call my friends back to rescue me because I couldn't see to get away myself.
That is absolutely horrific.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't blame my friends for the situation, because it was a pretty scary situation, but and I'm lucky that they did come back. It's quite funny looking back, actually, because they were identical twins. They had to come. One of them came and just grabbed me by the hand and just pulled me away. But it could have been a situation where I could have had it would have been a very different outcome if I hadn't
Absolutely.
been able to go, you can't leave me here, I can't see.
Yeah. God. Yeah, it puts you in a
I don't know if I've ever told that story
middle
before.
position.
Yeah, it
Wow.
was.
Are you, Alice, are you all right, Alice?
Yes, I'm fine. I'll be all right. I'll have
Okay.
a coffee
Okay.
and a biscuit afterwards. I'll be fine.
That's
Maybe
great.
make my coffee Irish.
Yeah, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe. I know that having my disability certainly made me tougher, because there's been experiences in my life where people have underestimated me and made my life miserable whilst I've been trying to prove them wrong. So I'm not only am I working like 10 times harder than everybody else I know, but I'm also having to put up with. I can remember, so I'm a former media student, and our last year of the college course, with the university course we were on, we had to make a feature film, and because I was in a wheelchair, and obviously it can't go everywhere where an able-bodied person, so like muddy grass, muddy fields, sand, beaches, those kind of things, anything with a different terrain, you can forget it. We were filming in a field in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night, and I said, there's no way I can come and be on this shoot with the rest of the crew, because I can't physically get in the field. And that was the catalyst for what led to be a good 12 months of really severe bullying. So not only was I bullied by my former classmates, but the lecturer as well. So before all of this happened, the lecturer, I was put down to be the director of this film, and I was really excited, looking forward to it, thinking, this is my chance to prove what a good director I can be. And unbeknownst to me and two other friends, the lecturer in question took the rest of my classmates to McDonald's and persuaded them one by one that I wasn't the right candidate to be a director because I was in a wheelchair and I wouldn't understand what it took. So I was then kicked off as director and somebody else was put in place. And then the whole thing of me not being able to be on shoots in the middle of a field in the middle of the night, that caused ructions with the classmates even more, because I was seen as getting special treatment. Like, why should Lucy go home at 4:00 every evening when the rest of us are all working hard? I got told by one classmate in particular, I don't know why you're at university, because all you're going to have to do is sit at home and on your benefits all day, which made me cry, and I never cry about that sort of thing anyway. And yeah, it was just horrendous, horrific time. But all the time, I knew where I wanted to be in the end, and I knew what I wanted to achieve. So I could have given in, and I could have dropped out of university, but I didn't. I've sat through it. I got things thrown at my head, things thrown at my body, just general name calling. And when I eventually did get a job working for the BBC, straight after university, I went to the premiere of our film, and one of the blokes got out of the car, and I never forget what he said to me. He turned, looked at me, smirked, and said, "Oh, so you've not done us all a favour and jumped off a cliff then?"
Oh my God. Oh.
So, I mean, I don't talk about it very often, because it's just a traumatic thing to talk about. But that certainly, bullying is never acceptable. It's never right. It's horrible for everybody who has to come into contact with it. But it certainly made me tougher, and it's made me realise that I can, just because it kind of giving me like a thicker skin. I mean, don't get me wrong, people can still say things and I get very hurt and upset, and that university incident was just one of many incidents where people have said things off the cuff, or maybe not even off the cuff, they've just been malicious with it. And it does hurt, and it does, but I have got I can put up with a lot before I think, no, that's enough now. Do you know what I mean?
I think you could there's an element sometimes of being able to use your disability as a bit of a weapon and being able to turn around to people and going, you know, you can say you don't like me because I'm loud or because I'm rude or whatever it is. But if you turn around and say you don't like me because of my disability, that makes you the shittiest person. You know, if people turn around and say, well, why do you need this? Why do you get this? And you turn around and go, I tell you what, I'll fucking swap you.
Yeah.
You live my life for a week and see if you're still jealous of the extra support that I can get. Because it just highlights how little they are in comparison to you.
Yeah.
It is this kind of thing, isn't it? Where people go, oh, you get all this, you get money from the government, you get this, that, and the other.
Like they're jealous.
Like, oh, aren't you special? And I'm thinking, if we could get rid of it and not have to have it, we would do it immediately. It's a necessity, not a luxury. And then a few years later, I was actually back at college again. And I was signing up to do a sign language course at the college. And as I was signing in to do, like signing the forms to enroll myself on this course, the parent of the bully, the main ringleader of the bullies at university, stood behind me and went, "Excuse me, are you Lucy Wood? You might know my son," and then told me the son's name. And he said, "Oh, I must tell certain person how." Yeah, I'm so close.
Give him a fake name. You can call him Jonathan.
Jonathan. Yeah, I must tell Jonathan. His name wasn't Jonathan. Well picked there, Alice. I must tell Jonathan how you're getting on. And I just turned around and I don't know what came over me, but I went, "Please don't. Your son made my life a misery for a whole university year. I do not want him knowing what I'm doing, where I am, how successful I've been." And his parents were absolutely horrible. I told them everything about what he'd said, what he'd done. And they were horrified. They were absolutely, and I just thought, well, I've been waiting a long time for that karma to manifest itself. And I felt so good after. The woman behind the reception desk went, "That's been waiting a long time to come out of that bottle, hasn't it?" And I was like, yeah. Because I was just like a tirade of, and he did this, and he did this, and when he did this, he did this. And they were like, they apologised on his behalf. I said, "I don't need an apology from you. I don't really need an apology from him because it's in the past. You can't take back what he said and how it hurt me. But I want you to know that I don't want him to know anything about me."
Is there anything, Louise, that if you could say anything to those people that you were at school with who called you a loner, what would you say to them now, do you think?
I mean, did the people at school know that you had such a good singing voice and such a talent for music and singing and all that kind of thing? Or was that something you discovered later in life?
Yeah, it was later in life. So I'd probably say, yeah, look at me now, look what I can do. You wouldn't know that it was me, would you? That shy girl.
Exactly.
Yeah, listen to me now. And in fact, I've had people, this girl that was really popular, and they seem to want to befriend me now on Facebook and stuff like that. And go, "Oh, wow, look, isn't Louise doing well?" and stuff like that. Like they want to know me now, and they want to know my sister because, and no one even knew our names really. They used to call us Steel or Thingy, because we were twins. And now they're adding this on Facebook, and everyone seems to.
I always think it's amazing that when you are, when you've been through your down times and then eventually you find success again, all sorts of people come climbing out of the woodwork. But it's amazing when you are doing something and people are wanting to be part of that success, you just think to yourself, nope, because you weren't there. You weren't there supporting me when I was working towards this goal. So you're going to share the spotlight with me now, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I mean, you can
Does that make me sound like a cowbag. It probably does.
No.
doesn't
Not
it?
really. Be proud of yourself. I mean, there's no harm in that, is there?
I think it comes back to a lot of what Louise was saying at the beginning about being proud of who you are and what you've done. And, you know, for Louise, it's about being proud that she's got Asperger's, because it gives her a different outlook on life. And, you know, those are the best artists, the people who see the world differently.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's no point in imitating what's already been done. I mean, my stuff may not be mainstream, but it's different. So yeah, and I've got it's offbeat.
No, I think it's absolutely brilliant, Louise.
Thank you.
You know, the way that you use your talents to sort of show the other sides to you know, your life, and what, you know, just not being like what people expect. I love it when people aren't things that you expect, and you oh, that's quite surprising, and it's like, oh, that's really interesting, and it's really fascinating to sort of to learn all about, you know, your story, really.
Oh yeah, because I'm a wallflower really, and I've got all these sequins and glitter, and I'm just, you know, giving it the sass on those music videos.
I love glitter. I love anything sparkly.
Yeah.
Anything with feathers. Basically, I'm basically like Shirley Bassey.
Oh, I can see it. I can see it. Yeah.
Actually, can I change that? I'm basically like Dolly Parton, is what I am.
Oh, Dolly Parton's great. Bloody hell.
I love that
Legend.
woman. She's absolutely. When she did Glastonbury, I did not realise that you could put rhinestones on a saxophone, but she did. Amazing.
Yeah.
I bet you could put rhinestones on a wheelchair.
Oh
my God, Alice. Let's do it. The next time I go for a wheelchair assessment appointment, you're coming with me.
We'll say that we need it because, you know, we're co-hosting. I need really sparkly wheelchair so that I can see it.
Exactly, so I glisten in the sunlight.
Yeah.
I will have some like glitter fire cannons and feathers. Yes. I'm basically going to look like Big Bird on acid, probably.
So Louise, why don't you tell us about where we can find you online?
So you can find all my music videos at on YouTube at Louise Steele Music. I'm Louise Steele Music on Instagram. I use that quite a lot, and Louise_Steele on Twitter, and then Facebook as well. So yeah, follow me on there, and check out the new album Hot Sideshow.
I'm gonna like download that
Hot
now.
Storm was the last one. Sideshow is the glitzy one that you want when you're rocking about in your wheelchair. You knew
fabulous
wheels.
When I'm pretending to be Dolly Parton. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, Louise.
That's all right. It's been a pleasure. See you later.
Thanks. Yeah, been great to have you on. Cheers. Thanks for listening to the lABLEd podcast. If you like the show, please rate, review and subscribe. You can follow us on social media at lABLEd podcast.
Our thanks go to our editor, Adam Hall, our music composer, Maisie Crunden, and our graphic designer, Sarah Coley. We'll see you next time.
You didn't catch me, baby. Now I'm way down on the ground. But something tells me you'll remember me now. 'Cause I fell right down into the lion's den. But I made a few friends, and I'm roaring with them, yeah. Running with my pride and my head held high. I said I ain't gonna be a little sideshow tiptoe, I'm walking around with my pride. Know your place. Sideshow, psycho, good girl, no show. I'm falling for you. I'm falling from grace. Sideshow, psycho, good girl, no show. I'm falling for you. I'm falling from grace. I feel